Well, welcome everyone to the panel discussion. We've just watched two powerful, incredibly moving films. And while people take a moment to settle, I'll explain what's going to happen over the next 45 minutes. So I'm Ben Pickering. I'm your moderator for the panel discussion this evening. We have four people on the panel whom I will be putting questions to, and I'm sure we'll have a really interesting discussion. I'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. But before I do that, let me just point out some of the features of this evening. You'll see hopefully on the bottom of your screen, there's a function there to ask questions. Please do go ahead and do that throughout the course of this discussion. I'm really keen to hear from you. What are the sort of the key questions you have, and we'll put that to our panel members. And then I believe Jerry has also organised a few polls that people are taking. So it'd be great to check in on those and sort of see the scores a bit later on and reflect on those. And, I should say it feels really very pertinent to be screening these two films today. Yesterday, as people are well aware, it was World Refugee Day, and I think we're reminded through these films of the shocking journeys that people are forced to make every day to seek safety and protection, particularly shocking that they're children. And I think what struck me with Shadow Game was the way in which during the film we see that children are being labelled as illegals, when the reality is that it's they who are being robbed of their childhood. And what I took away from Past Journeys, Future Dreams was a sense of hope, a real sense of hope. And anyway, more on that to come. Right, let's introduce the panel. I'm really delighted to be welcoming them here this evening. Perhaps we can start with Han and Darya, and then we'll move to Els and lastly Jude. So Han, over to you.
Hello, I'm Han Divendak. I'm the director of Past Journeys, Future Dreams, which we made with young people from refugee families settled in Lancashire.
Hello everyone, good evening. I hope you enjoyed both the films. My name's Darya. I'm one of the protagonists in the Past Journey, Future Dreams film that was shown first.
Els, can we come to you?
Yeah, well, hello everyone. I'm Els van Driel. I'm based in Amsterdam, and I'm the co-director together with Eefje Blankenvoort of Shadow Game film.
And Jude.
Hi, I'm Jude. I'm a doctor, and I've worked in various places across the world, including Europe and the UK, with refugees, predominantly in the field of health, but a little bit in detention as well. So lovely to see you all, and look forward to hearing your questions and thoughts.
Thanks so much. Well, look, a warm welcome to all of you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Let's move straight on with it, because I get a sense that time is going to go very quickly today. So I'd like to start with a question, Darya, for you, if that's okay. You're one of the stars of the film. In the film, you provide a really moving account of your time settling into the UK. Can you tell us a bit more about your experience? How did you overcome some of the challenges that you faced, and what things helped the most?
So I came here from Iraq around 5 years ago. I was privileged in the way that I came. I didn't have to cross illegally or anything. I came by plane because of my dad's job and having visas and whatnot to come in. It was really hard at first though, because I knew English, but it was all American. I went to an English school in Iraq, and everything was American. I knew only grammar, no idioms, no slang. And then I was chucked into Newcastle. Everybody speaks Geordie. I don't know a word what anyone's saying. So it was a hard first year. It was year 6. We had SATs coming up, and it was a really hard first year. But I think most children will agree with me. When you first come here, you just throw yourself into school, and that really helps you forget about everything that's going on and settling in. You just throw yourself in there. You make friends. You meet new people. The school helps out. The school helped me out a lot. They They got me in contact with other people that were refugees. We had like a refugee group. So for the first year and a half, it was tough, but it was good fun. You know, a whole new world in my eyes. Every little thing that is normal to me now was new back then. But even stuff like buses and public transport was like so different here, and I had to get used to that. It was hard though, because I had to leave my mum behind for the first year and a half, and it used to be my dad working abroad and my mum taking care of me and my sister. So it just swapped, and my dad didn't know how to cook or clean, so it was an absolute mess of a year and a half. But I think what the film wants to show is hope. And the truth is, after 5 years now, my mom's here. I love my life. It's been a real journey, and I feel like it's strengthened me, and I wouldn't go back and change it in any way. I think this country's provided me with a great, bright future, and I can't wait to take advantage of that and make the best life going forward that I can. It's been a great journey.
That's fantastic. Thank you. Well, I mean, congratulations to you and Han for producing the film, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. Han, let me come to you then. Can you talk us through a bit about how the film came about? Why was it important for you to make it?
The film was commissioned by Lancashire Youth Challenge, which is an independent charity that based in Lancaster that does bespoke youth work for specific target groups of young people. And Lancashire County Council asked them to do a creative social cohesion project aimed at refugee children who live in Lancashire, to help them settle and find new friends and new activities to do. Help them with language, help them with culture. And Lancashire Youth Challenge decided that one of the best ways of doing that was by giving the young people a chance to express their stories in a piece of creative art. And they chose to make a film. And I've had the privilege to work with the Youth Challenge on a number of projects, and they asked us to do that. Handstand, my company, is a small film company that specializes in doing documentary and drama work with young people and giving young people a voice through video and media.
Fantastic. I mean, that's so interesting. I want to pick up on a couple of things you said, but I'm conscious I want to get around all our panel members first. So if I may, Els, let's come to you, and indeed congratulations, Els, to you on a fantastic film, Shadow Game. Again, just incredibly powerful. And if I may, I wanted to just really get straight in there with a question on, reflecting on the film, the physical dangers, the physical harm that's endured by the protagonists, during these games is very clear in the film. It's very evident. What I thought was particularly moving was how well you captured the psychological impact that was going on. How much of a challenge was it to do that within the film?
Well, that's I think it's mostly because of the boys themselves. They were so open to us. We met them under very dire circumstances indeed. We used to work just going with the two of us, Evie and I, together with our translators who were Al-Qaisi, and then we would just sit around with the guys and talk to them, and we would hear a lot of stories from them, because we were the only ones actually asking for them, how are you doing? How does it work? Show us around. How do you cross the borders here? No one cares. And they're in a situation in refugee camps with 2,000 men, for instance. So it was they were very open to us. They wanted to share their stories. And it also turned out that they actually had filmed themselves already, parts of their journey in vlog style, and that was of course also a way to survive and to cope with everything they were facing. So we included that material in the film, and we really co-created the film together, and it was not so hard to capture their emotions, because I mean, if you're under such pressure every day and you're in surviving mode, you will show your emotions. It's just there. On the other hand, they also had this smile face. That's how Eski, the Afghani vlogger, calls it. When he looks back to the film and he sees himself, he says, "That's me in my smile face." But on the inside, I was very, very down. So what you see is sometimes real and sometimes it's a fake face that you will see in the film. But it was very special that they were so open to us, and at the same time it is, you can understand that they wanted to share their feelings because it was so crazy, that everything they were going through.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, thank you. I'm conscious we're having a few questions come in, and there are some responses on the polls. I'll come to that in a moment. But Jude, I just wanted to come to you and to follow this theme of mental health, of psychological harm. In your experience, working with refugees, with migrants, working in crisis situations, what are the sorts of mental health problems children face? What are the sort of problems that we saw them facing in Shadow Game? And what sort of help is available for them on their journeys?
Yeah, I mean, this is it's such a good question, and I think Else was very correct. It's this smile face, isn't it? And so the things that happen along the journey, the absolute lows, the potential, the highs, the physical harm, which causes psychological trauma, detention, which again causes psychological trauma. They're all sort of coped with by refugees as something that we often find, especially people who are still traveling, who are still on the move, as just I need to just carry on. And that is, psychologists and psychiatrists would arguably say that that's actually a very helpful coping mechanism, and that you build that, for want of a better word, sort of resilience to carry on. However, there are points where people hit a crisis, and that's definitely a point where I've certainly seen people, and lots of people working with refugee populations will have seen them. And then ultimately, if and when people do reach their destination, or do manage to find somewhere to settle and safely settle, it's then that you do see people with post-traumatic stress disorder. You do see severe depression, severe anxiety, extreme trauma caused by the journeys, events during the journeys, detention, torture, and it's factually, it's incredibly hard to treat people, sometimes because of access to care, sometimes because of the kind of just being in one place for long enough to actually go through a proper treatment course, and actually also a point where people are ready, that they feel established enough in their lives. Certainly lots of people I've seen have just said, look, can I get somewhere to live? Can I get my kids in school? Or, I'm a child, I just want to be settled in school. I can't sort of start to open up in a way that treatment for mental health, mental health disorders is often needed. So yeah, it's very variable, and it's very important to as doctors and psychologists to treat it as at the appropriate point in people's course, I suppose.
Thanks, Jude. Yes, so interesting. And I just want to bring in actually a question that we've had from the audience, that we have from Caroline. And it's actually a specific question, Els, to you and Jude. So let me pose that question, then I'll come back to Darya and Han. So the question from the audience is, there are no female unaccompanied minors in Shadow Game. Did you meet many when you were on the ground? So Els, let's start with you, and then perhaps Jude, if you could share some of your reflections on perhaps the particular risks faced by female unaccompanied minors. But Els, first to you, thanks.
Yeah, well, I have met some, but not so much, so many. Most of the girls, they travel, especially when they're from Arabic countries or Afghanistan, they travel with other families, so they are not alone to be protected. So I met some girls traveling that way, and the African route, the Libyan route to Italy is, of course, it's the most dangerous route for girls, for sexual exploitation, etc. The girls that you meet there are very, very likely to be traumatized and pregnant during their journeys, and they are also very often prey to trafficking. So they are working in prostitution in Italy, for instance. So we thought we would not include that story in our film because it's such a particular other story for the girls. And also one of the reasons is that the boys is like 99% of the children fleeing alone, because they are the head of the family, because their fathers have died or are crippled or are ill. They have to take care of their families, and also they are in an age to become recruited by militias or by the army. So that's also a reason why they flee their country. So it's a very different story from the girls.
Thank you. And Jude, any reflections from the medical side around female unaccompanied minors in particular?
Yeah, I mean, I think Els sort of hit on it there, actually, that so many do become pregnant and unfortunately do just so easily fall victim to sexual exploitation, and, you know, and all of the physical medical problems, or the psychiatric medical problems that come with that. And unfortunately, the huge amounts of shame as well that will come with that, in terms of being able to reintegrate it into a family, into a an extended family group, if and when they are reunited with people. And so that is certainly, it's another very specific group, and certainly in the UK, it's recognised that they often don't seek care as early as others, as early as male unaccompanied minors, potentially because of all these reasons to do with you know, shame, embarrassment, and the extreme trauma that they've suffered. Yeah.
Thanks, Jude. Right, I'd like to return to Past Journeys, Future Dreams. There's a question from the audience again. This one's for Darya, and it links in with the point I made at the beginning around the sense of hope from the film. And so the question is, for Darya, what do you hope people will take away from your story and from the story of your friends?
When we were making the poems with Amina Atik, a poet that works with BBC and multiple other organizations that helped us write them, the main focus was, although we'd had really difficult pasts, and you know, some of us, you know, had trauma, we wanted to show that we didn't want to be pitied. You know, we want help, but we don't want to be seen as the broken or unsalvageable children that are a result of this big moving to other countries and migration. We wanted to make sure that we made it clear that, you know, our journeys strengthened us and made us better people. You know, we might not have enjoyed them at the time, but reflecting back, I certainly can say that I've become much stronger, and I can handle a lot more, knowing, especially when it comes to, say, being separated from family or having to be independent, because you're kind of forced into it, and it really has made us all stronger people as a result. And we wanted to show that there's a sense of hope for the future, but also the past did forge who we are today, whether we like it or not. We have to accept that and use it as a tool to move forward.
Yeah, can I add something to
Please.
that? As one of the purposes of the film was also for it to be available as a resource for further young people who would come into Lancashire as refugees, and we wanted it to be a positive message for them to show them that there is hope at the point where they might feel extremely unsettled. And we decided, and that was one of the messages that the young people in the group wanted the film to make. The reason why we made a film was we wanted to give the young people the opportunity to start talking about their journey and any trauma involved, without it being necessarily a sit around the table telling, this happened to me, this happened to you. giving the distance of writing poetry about it and then assembling those individual poems into a group narrative, which sort of on an intuitive level makes sense, and then giving them the opportunity to find, to make their own storyboards, to tell me as a director what visuals they think would go with the words they've written.
Fantastic, thank you. What I'd like to do is actually bring in another really interesting question which links in with this point about what people can do. Teresa, you've asked a really interesting question. I'd actually like to invite you to ask that question yourself, if you'd be happy to. If you just put in the sidebar a sort of a yes or a no, and I think Jerry and the team will be able to bring you on if you'd like to. Whilst you're thinking about that, why don't I just go to the polls very quickly to see some of the reflections people are sharing on our question. So the first one there is around asylum policy in the UK. Is it too strict, too relaxed, or about right? So everyone who's voted so far seems to feel very strongly that it is too strict. I think that that's well understood. Han, just to come back to you, in terms of the impact that you wanted to get from this film, how has the film been received? Is it? So can you share an example of sort of the change that you're seeing with it and the impact that you hope to get from it?
The young people who have taken part have gained enormous amounts of it. There have been a number of public screenings in Lancashire. There have been some online events, and I understand that Lancashire Youth Challenge has had an enormous amount of positive feedback, and that the film is being used as a resource. And I think there are plans to do a similar type of project later this year with a new cohort of young people.
Els, can I come to you actually and ask a question about the approach you took to the style of the film and how the film was shot? I thought what was really captivating about the way it was shot was it uses this combination, you mentioned it earlier, about this sort of first-hand perspective. We have some protagonists speaking directly to the camera, the blogging style that you said. You feel very much you're being talked to directly. And then you also use a documentary style as well. Why was that style, that approach so important to you, and how do you think it helped to add strength and power to the film?
Well, we thought we didn't want to make another refugee film in the sense that is so classical in media, like portraying refugees as victims, just like, sorry, I forgot your name, but just like you said from Past Journeys, Future Dreams, it's not the right approach, I think, because all these young people and all refugees are very resilient and strong people. So we thought we have to change and counter that narrative, and the way to go was to work together with these kids, and they are a generation of storytellers themselves, of course, because they're online all the time, telling stories about their lives. So that was really striking to us, and we found out that their TikTok films were completely different from one. We thought it is very strong to make a connection on that base, like they're all youth, and they all have aspirations and dreams, indeed, to strive for and to work for. So that's what our approach was, and also the effect now is what we see is that indeed it counters the narrative. So we see in all the screenings that we have for education for youth that some children are raised with anti-refugee ideas at home, and after having seen the film, they really make a shift. So they go, I now understand why refugees come to Europe and how they have to travel, and that they are very strong people and they're very funny and they're like us and they have the same dreams as we have. So it really does something on that level, and that is, I think, very important now because we're in such a negative political time with this really negative frame on refugees. So yeah, we hope we can like address a new generation in new images with this film.
Absolutely. Els, thank you. Right, let's try to go back to Teresa. Teresa, if you can, please unmute and ask your question.
So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Firstly, the films were just amazing. And as a parent of a 12-year-old and a 19-year-old stepson, it's kind of hard to believe that this goes on, which obviously it does. You know, I really like what you said there, Els, in terms of educating our own children, which I do. And we try really hard to make them understand that, you know, they live in a very privileged life. What else can we do, though? Like, you know, as a layman, as someone who is not connected in any way to this, how on earth can I make a difference?
Well, yeah, that's a big question, I think. But what we try to do with the Shadow Game is to give options. So you can go to our website to find out what you can do. So you can give your time, you can give your money, you can give your voice, raise your voice and address every time with politicians that you don't agree with their policies. So that is something that we offer, and one of the things we did was we made a manifesto together with the kids of the film, which we actually last week offered at the European Commission together with some of the kids out of the film. And it had 38,000 signatures from all over Europe, from European citizens who don't agree with the inhumane policies against children, refugees as well. And that was something that had really big impact, because we had a screening inside the European Parliament, in front of the European Commission and European parliamentarians. And that will have a long tail as well. So we have seen that it really helps to raise your voice, to sign these petitions, to really activate and be the amplifier of the voices of these children. Because there's still 22,500 children stuck at our borders at this moment. I mean, they're still out there.
Hard to believe, isn't it? But yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I will go and check that out and do what I can.
Teresa, thank you so much for your question. Just wanted to take a moment to reflect on some of the polls as well. So we had a couple of other questions that we put to the audience. One was, which country do most refugees come from? Most people feel that's Syria. And I believe that's right. I think it's really important to see the other countries in that list, particularly Somalia and Iraq. A lot of refugees coming from these countries as well. I think it really demonstrates how conflict as a driver of refugee numbers is so significant, and how much more needs to be done on addressing the root causes there, root causes of conflict. And then which country takes in the most refugees? Again, I think people are absolutely right here that it is Turkey. And I think, going back to Elsa's point, I think that does ask questions around some of the policies of other countries in Europe. Question actually now I'd just like to put, Jude, to you. We've talked a lot about the dangers that children face on these journeys, particularly the health needs they might have. Can you talk a little bit about actually once they get to their destination in Europe? You know, what are the complexities they face as a refugee, especially as a minor, in being able to access care, any assistance that they need? Do the problems stop there, or what are the sort of complexities that they'll be facing?
See, this is a really good question, and I think obviously it depends a lot on which country they go to, like the specific policies and what. However, I think first of all to say is that they're minors. They don't necessarily know that they should be seeking care for something before you even think how you do it, and the perceived or real actual lack of access to the care. Some awful policies that relate to charging for care, made worse by kind of contentious policies on age estimations, saying that minors can have care. However, the moment someone thinks you are either above 16 or above 18, then you sort of seem to lose all rights. Well, you know, whether that's legal or illegal in many countries. And also, it's the policies as kind of dispersal policies are a problem as well. That actually children, minors, will arrive, maybe will start actually getting some care in somewhere for a medical problem, for their psychological needs or for their psychiatric needs, and then they're moved to another part of the country, and you lose all that continuity, you lose those relationships, and you lose, I mean, let's be honest, you lose medical records and things. And I think another big thing is the need for specialist care. Okay, you know, fine, again, for physical medical problems, but being dispersed under a policy to a small village or a small town in a country where appropriate care just is not there for minors, with a translator, with a good translator that they trust, with all the other support that is needed around seeking any kind of care. So it just doesn't stop there, and that, I'm imagining that's lifelong, actually.
Yeah, Jude, thanks so much. Really, really interesting, and I think it demonstrates again the complexity of the challenges that children and refugees more broadly are facing, not just on the journey, but once they get to their destination, and how embedded structurally, institutionally, systemically a lot of the challenges are. Right, moving to another question. I think we have Caroline in the audience who'd like to come in and ask a question. If that's right, Caroline, if you can unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, hello. Thank you, Darya and Els and everyone else for bringing us these really great films this evening. They've been really, really thought-provoking, really inspiring. I was just thinking, looking to the future, I guess, Darya, to you, and then Els, you might be able to answer on behalf of the boys from the film, but do you have any plans to make any more films to raise awareness or about other topics going forward?
I mean, I'm not aware of any, but I'd love to help in any. It's been a really good experience, not just to get my feelings out, but also to have other people join in and hear about other people's stories and just educate, like Elle said, all the people that do watch it. It's been a real help to get it all out there. And as for the future, it's a constant struggle balancing where you come from and where you are now, and those two aspects of your life, whether it's culture and tradition and the way you think and how school works. It's a balance, but I think most of the boys will be able to say as well, just day to day, when you say, like, when you think about a day to day as opposed to a long term, it really helps us to wake up, get on with your day, and do the best you can for that day. And you just keep going like that and over time you get better and better. And obviously, still these sometimes I struggle to find whether I want to find a solution the old-fashioned and traditional way that I grew up with, or the more Western way, you could say, of looking at a problem. And I still balance it too. It's hard to do it sometimes, but I think it's really useful to have more than one perspective and more than one culture or tradition to look back on to help you in life. I think it's a really useful tool to have.
Yeah, so I can add a little bit about the impact of the film on the protagonists. So we are still in contact with all of them, and some of them more intensely because they live in the Netherlands or in Belgium, so that's close to us. And they travel with the film, and indeed, so they went to the European Parliament with us, but also to other countries. And right at this moment, or yesterday night, they had a screening in Zagreb in Croatia together with Esti and Jano, who was also there. And this was amazing. It was the first time they stepped into an airplane, and they flew back to Croatia, the country in which they were stuck and where they were tortured. And just the difference was one piece of paper to get there. They had a travel document now, and it was a 1 hour and a half flight instead of 2 years going to the Netherlands traveling by foot. So it was very special, and it was very it was like a truth and reconciliation trip, because they also met really nice Croatians this time that embraced them and hugged them and said, "You're welcome in Europe." And that was really, really helpful for them to get a different view on this harsh journey and reception by Croatia. And yeah, indeed, they are feeling they own the story now. They are ambassadors of this story, and that they are allowed to speak out and to share their opinions, coming from countries where that was never possible. So they are actually also learning about how does democracy work, and we are learning with them, because it is a very intense, also to the European Union. I mean, this is so complex, this whole bureaucratic monster that we created, and how they find their way now to raise their voices there. It's very interesting, and we see them transform into change makers and becoming really, more confident on their position. So it's really heartwarming to see, and we would love to continue this journey with them. And also something else is that we make some follow-up documentaries with some of them, and you can also find them on our website. So indeed, how do they live on in the system, the asylum systems in the Netherlands or in Ljubljana in Slovenia or elsewhere? So we made some of the films are like focused on the mental pressure they face in the procedure, or on the shift between, or the line between 18 plus, 18 minus, that was also addressed earlier. So you can find them on our website, and we will continue to follow them.
Oh, that's brilliant. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely have a look at those. And yeah, thank you, Darya, and best of luck with everything.
Caroline, thanks so much. We're fast approaching the end of our time. I just want to try and sneak in one more question, Han, to you, if I may, to ask what's next for you and this work. Are there more ideas, projects in the pipeline?
We're sort of going to be involved in the next Lancashire Youth Challenge project, which is not specifically aimed at refugees, although some of the refugees, young people, will take part in it, which will film in Anglesey in August, and it's based on very outdoor challenges. And we're working on a film with the Tropical School of Medicine in Liverpool about research into air pollution in Nairobi in Kenya, which should be ready around about October time.
Fantastic. We'll be looking forward to those. I'm afraid we're going to have to draw a close there. We're out of time. I don't know if anyone else feels like it's absolutely flown by. But I would like to say a big thank you to all my panel members for sharing your experiences and being able to really help us understand some of the challenges, the difficulties, but also the opportunities and hope for refugees, for migrants in today's world. So thank you so much for that. And indeed, thank you to everyone who's dialed in and joined us for this event. Your support, as ever, is tremendous, and it really does help raise awareness and inspire change for a lot of the themes that we see in these films. So thank you all so much. And until the next time, wish everyone a very, very pleasant evening.
Thank you as well.
Thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you.
Thank you.